everybody. Welcome to the world's greatest Spider-Man podcast. Here comes the Spider-Cast. I'm your co-host, Mike Allen. As always, I'm joined by...
Joshua Merval, and today we're going to be taking a look at Spidey Comics from September of 1988.
That's right, and we are joined once again by G.I. Jolie.
Hello. I almost said Happy Star Wars Day, but I realized...
Yeah, that still won't come out.
Yeah, this is recorded 3 years in advance, so I don't even know if we'll have a Star Wars Day by then. But, yeah, and then we're also joined by Bex Luthor.
Hello. To date this episode recording even further, let's hurry up so that I can go watch Moon Knight. Because I haven't been on my phone all day.
Also, special returning guest for his third appearance, Dave Constantino.
Hey, I feel like everyone has a cool nickname, and I don't have one.
That's true.
That's okay.
We'll think of one. By the end of this episode, we'll have one for you, okay?
Your name is Constantino. That's pretty badass just by itself.
Wait.
Like, you could just be Constantine.
What about Hellblazer?
I don't like that. I was hoping it would be Spider-Man related, but hey, that's all right.
Okay.
Okay, as we're going through the episode, I'll think of a few and I'll toss them your way, okay?
Maybe I shouldn't have said anything then.
Too late.
Okay, yeah, let's continue. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Okay, so we're going to start off with the third part of the Cult of Love storyline in Web of Spider-Man. And Josh, you're going to tell us what happened in this one.
Right, so this is Web of Spider-Man number 42. Like Mike said, it's part 3 of this ongoing story with the Cult of Love. This one's called Pressure. And we're picking up where we left off last time, and we're picking up on this cliffhanger where we're in suspense, wondering if Peter Parker is going to join this cult after watching a miracle that was actually, we learned, that was actually faked by the cult leader named the Teacher. So the Teacher kind of talks to the guy that he's so-called healed. And we kind of get the ending of the narration by Ben Urich and the guy that they're interviewing with Flash Thompson. And this big meeting ends up dispersing at the cult, and the Teacher looks at Peter Parker, and Peter's something weird is going on here. So he starts booking it and gets lost in the crowd. He ends up looking over and sees Betty talking to Tracy, who is the younger sister of Kate Cushing, that she talked about last issue that went missing in the Cult of Love. So Peter now knows that she is safe. So Teacher ends up catching up with Peter and stops him and says, "Hey, I believe this is yours." And he pulls out the Spider-Man mask. We cut back over to MJ, who is at this lingerie modeling gig, and she's unsure if she's going to do it. She's kind of hemming and hawing. I haven't talked to Peter yet, so she's like, I'm going to wait and talk to my husband before I go through with this. Cut back to Ben Urich and Flash. They're kind of don't really know what to do yet, so they kind of part ways. Flash goes off and to volunteer with PAL, which is a kid's, almost like a Big Brother type of organization. We cut back to the cult where Teacher is walking with Peter, and he's kind of explaining everything hey, I'm not going to tell anybody what's going, who you are. I'm going to keep that a secret. I just want to let you know that we're a peaceful group of people. We're all about love and healing and blah, blah, blah. He pretty much gaslights Peter into believing that the healing was real and that this is actually a good place. So Peter leaves this place thinking, wow, this is so strange. I thought that Betty was in trouble, but it turns out that maybe this isn't such a bad place after all. So he goes back to the Bugle and tells Kate and Ben Urich about what happened, and he kind of omits the location because he doesn't want and doesn't feel like they should go in and break it up because it's, nothing illegal is happening, or at least they don't, he never saw anything illegal happening in this cult. So he leaves, calls MJ, who he hasn't seen in like 2 days straight, and pretty much is like, yeah, sure, the modeling thing, whatever you want to do, I don't care, I trust your instinct. So he leaves. She's like, what the hell, that's all he's got to say to me? Okay, fine, looks like I'm gonna be taking these lingerie pictures. So she does that. We cut over to the basketball court where Flash is hanging out with the kids, and Spider-Man comes by to kind of talk to him about what's going on and fill him in on the whole cult of love thing. Flash kind of turns on Spider-Man once he says, like, hey, I don't think we should do anything. They're not bad people. Like, nothing bad is happening, so we shouldn't go and take Betty away because she seems happy there. So he's really upset about what's going on. Spidey leaves. Flash is talking to like the other coach that's there, who's like a former cop or currently a cop. I can't remember. But he's like, oh yeah, the Cult of Love. I did a raid on that facility once. Blah 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 blah. So Flash is like, okay, well, let's team up. We'll do a raid and we'll go save my friend Betty. Cut back over to Betty, who is kind of curled up in a ball under a tree at the facility, and that guy from like I think the first issue that made the flamethrower and was attacking Spider-Man, he shows up with a lighter and is trying to like calm her down and says some sort of like weird mumbo jumbo about how the flame calms him and he's not allowed to have fire anymore, but he swiped this lighter from one of the guards. So we cut back over to Flash and Ben. They're talking. He brings Ben Urich into the fold and fills him in on his plan to go kidnap Betty. Oh, wait, no, this isn't Ben. Sorry. This is the... for some reason, I thought he met up with Ben Urich, but he actually meets up with the priest, right?
I was confused too, but he's definitely
the priest that they interviewed.
Yeah.
Okay.
People.
Right. So we cut over, and Spidey goes to visit Dr. Druid, who is like the dollar store version of Doctor Strange, essentially. And he's like, "Hey, couldn't find Doctor Strange. Do you think you can give me some advice?" And then that's it. That's all we see of this dude. Yeah. We cut back over, and Flash and Ben are there, and they break into the facility in this van, and they're like tearing the place up. SWAT bursts out of the back of the van. They find Betty, and then this cop, a SWAT guy, says to Betty, "Okay, Betty, come along easy and you'll be fine, but one word and I'll deck you." And she turns around and shouts, "Pig!" And then he says that was the word and punches her out, knocks her out completely, and then lies to them and says that nothing happened. She just fell asleep. She fainted when I grabbed her. So we cut back to Spider-Man. We do not get to see the conversation between him and Druid. He pretty much just recaps that, oh yeah, he says, I'm on my own, or that, that follow your instincts, essentially. Like, he doesn't give any useful information. Flash then calls Spider-Man. He swings over and says, "Hey, we got a big problem." And he walks into the apartment, or Peter walks into the apartment, and we see Betty is tied to a chair in their apartment. And that's kind of where we leave off this issue, and left on a little bit of a cliffhanger there. But this is a strange one. It definitely feels like an in-between issue. Like it feels like it's kind of servicing maybe part 4 more than it being like a story in and of itself. I'm curious to see what Dave thinks after reading this one, like jumping into a part 3 of a story, because this is it's a strange one, this issue.
So yeah, Dave, we obviously these are published monthly. They're all usually multi-part epics. So you don't know what happened before this issue. So what did you think of this one?
Well, I agree that it feels like it was like an in-between thing. How many were there total for this? Was
2.
it 4?
I think
this is
there's
part
4.
3, so yeah.
But were there 4 total? Like, does that
I think
end?
there's 4 total.
Yeah,
in
there's
this
one more
yeah.
after this, yeah.
I'm curious to find out what happens. To be honest, I found it like I knew it was like the middle of other stuff that happened, and it's interesting, I guess, because you guys probably read the other ones, and I didn't. Anyways, I thought it was still pretty good. It's still pretty interesting. It was strange. The whole cult thing. I feel like cult stories are often very strange, no matter how you do it. But I thought it was weird, like Spider-Man was like, oh, everything's okay, like, yeah, just leave Betty there. I had a question, though. I don't know everything about Spider-Man, okay? Who the hell's Flash Thompson? Did he become Venom or something later?
Well,
He becomes
Eventually, he does.
Agent
Yeah.
Venom.
he was
one of the Venoms. Yeah.
He was the guy that bullied Peter Parker in high school. And then they became casual friends. Then they became best friends.
Okay.
And then years later, he became Venom, I think. Then he lost his legs in the Iraq War, didn't he?
Yeah, and that's when he becomes Venom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because I remember the name, and I remember I was like, isn't this guy like one of the Venoms later on? And anyways, okay.
He's in all of the trilogies too. Like he's in the Andrew Garfield, the Tobey, and the Tom Holland movies.
Yeah, because I remember the name, and obviously I've seen those movies. It's been a while. But okay, thanks for filling me in on that. So he's kind of an ass that's trying to not be an ass anymore. To Spider-Man.
Right.
Well, maybe not Peter Parker, because he doesn't know that he's Spider-Man.
No.
He doesn't know, but they've kind of become friends since high school.
Yeah.
And they've kind of made up. And Flash has always been a really big fan of Spider-Man, even when he was bullying Peter. Because again, he obviously doesn't know.
Yeah,
He's like, oh, I wish Peter could see me. I wish Spider-Man could see me beat up Peter Parker.
Yeah.
It'd be so great.
Then he would like me.
Okay. Anyways, I thought the story was interesting. Like, it was obvious that it was part of a story that was already developing, and it was like an in-between before the final part of whatever happens in this storyline. But I did think it was interesting. It was interesting because Spider-Man was kind of the one that he got brainwashed, I guess, by this teacher guy. But it wasn't the typical like brainwash thing, you know. It wasn't like he was just like, oh, they're okay. So I don't know. I thought it was good. But like I was a little lost because I hadn't seen the others, but I could basically put it together. But yeah, I would say it was a very good issue. I'm curious to how the actual series plays out. Maybe I'll read the 4th one. Are you gonna read that one next?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I can read it too. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, no, I thought it was good. It reminded me a lot of those like early classic Spider-Man comics I used to read, even though I didn't know the full story. That's
great. All right, G.I. Jolie, what'd you think of this one?
I feel like Mary Jane should leave Peter. No, I'm kidding. Whatever.
Well, that was. I didn't touch on that, but yeah, that was. Yeah, she should. But anyways, continue.
Yeah. It's like Dave pretty much nailed it on the head for me about like the A plot. I'm gonna call that the A plot. Even though I've read the first 2 issues of this, it's. I like that even though you haven't read the first 2 issues, you can pretty much guess what's going on. It's not convoluted, which is nice. However, the stuff with Mary Jane is kind of troubling. for Peter, story-wise. B plot.
Yeah.
What is their age? What are they, like 24?
Well, they never say for sure, but
Right? And like I get it. There's a lot of new marriages hit some bumps, but like they're two very busy people. Outside of the fact that they both know he's Spider-Man now, she was busier than him even before they married each other. So I find it very strange that they have like this weird codependency when they're together that only sort of comes up when they're apart. Like for instance, in this book, she's like, well, that suddenly they were really good friends before they got married too.
right.
And they weren't this dependent on each other, but they sort of were and they sort of weren't. So now that they're married, you would think that it wouldn't matter that much. Like, Mary Jane should know what Peter thinks. She shouldn't really have to ask outside of saying, oh, hey, by the way, there's like something a little bit risky that I'm contemplating doing, which is, doing a lingerie shoot. Like, why wouldn't she know how he would answer that?
I feel like she did.
Ask his permission.
No, I feel like she did. That was kind of strange. Like, I feel like she did know how he would probably answer, but he wasn't really paying attention to what he was saying.
Can I also point out quickly, do you guys think that Mary Jane was originally completely naked and they added the lingerie in post, or do you think it was always meant to be lingerie?
At first, I thought it was not lingerie because of that first shot, or not shot, that first
panel,
square or whatever.
Square, yeah. The first panel, she disrobes and you see her legs, so you kind of go, oh, well, she's naked. But then the next panel, there's lingerie on her. But I know the comics back in the 80s, sometimes they would be a little bit risque, like, John, I think it was Barry Windsor Smith or John Buscema, drew Conan with a girl naked in a river, and they just added, underwear to her or something. What's that? Or leaves, yeah, or something. So it's definitely possible they added that, but I got the impression she was originally naked.
And I feel like she probably was. When she comes out of the closet or out of the dressing room in just a robe, I think the suggestion is that she's supposed to be completely nude. She looks like she's completely nude under there.
Right.
And then she runs off.
Right.
So maybe, yeah. And honestly, it wouldn't actually be that hard to draw the small bits of lace that they drew onto her body.
Right. Right.
I just think I could have done without the weird, creepy commentary from the photographer, because
that was
pigeonhole. Let's pigeonhole every photographer, like fashion photographer, who's a male.
He was a creep.
Yeah, it's a bummer that they couldn't take this little B plot seriously, because it could be kind of an interesting conversation to have. And yeah, it was just made into like a gimmick, like an eye candy type thing, where it's like, MJ's hot, am I right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that part of the story was pretty disappointing. I will say there were two parts in the story that I really didn't care for. It was the MJ plot, and then the Druid part, because it's like a weird subplot to get Peter to realize that the cult is bad again. Like it's like they shoved a page into the comic because they were like, oh shit, we have to, how are we going to get Peter to realize that the cult is bad? How are we going to do this? Is he going to go to the facility and find it himself? Is he going to do some investigating after getting some pushback from Flash and he finds the balloon? No, that's not it. We're going to have him talk to this guy that nobody's ever heard of before. And then they're going to have a conversation off screen about how like, oh, you're just an idiot, Peter.
Yeah.
You're not as smart as I am, who would know better than to fall for a trick like that.
What would have been What would have been interesting if they would have, and I know this was done a long time ago, but if they would have they could have even tied in the Mary Jane thing with that storyline. Maybe she could have been like more developed and been like, hey, like, what the hell's wrong with you? You're brainwashed, you idiot. And then I'm doing lingerie photos. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like, yeah, that was weird. Yeah.
I know Becca's got a lot to say.
Bex Luthor, we haven't heard from you.
I don't have a lot to say because
Oh.
I don't care about this comic book at all.
Okay.
The Mary Jane stuff, just absolute garbage. Like literally just existing so that they could draw her hot on some pages. I feel like Mary Jane, yeah, she's the cool party girl, but I don't feel like she'd be so flippant about a decision to do a nude or a lingerie photo shoot just because she's a little bit ticked at Peter for an hour. Like, it made it seem like such a rash decision. She's like, you know what, Peter? Fine. As punishment for not calling me back or coming home, I'm gonna be naked on a magazine. And it's like, what is that gonna accomplish? And why is Mary Jane being so petty all of a sudden? Like, she's been only very supportive and understanding of her husband up to this point. And now she's just being like, oh, my wife, like, she's so annoying. Oh my god, you guys. It was and then Peter is an idiot in this whole comic. He's like, is it real magic? I don't know. Better go ask a magician. Hey, Dr. Druid, I know we don't know each other at all, but, like, do you think that somebody could fake this? And he's like, yeah, real easily.
Yeah.
And then at one point, isn't he like, oh no, that's enough information. You don't need to come with me anymore or something? Like,
Yes.
It's just like, Peter, you have a sense whenever there's danger around. You think if some man grabbed into another man's stomach and pulled out part of his body, you wouldn't know, feel a little tingle, just a little one. Like, I know it's supposed to be like, look how easy it is to succumb to a cult, but like, that's what the Betty part is. I don't need to see Peter also, like, Peter, who is supposed to be our smart protagonist, fall for something so obviously stupid.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what the whole thing is with this cult, because if they are actually in danger there, then his spider senses should have been going off the entire time, right? But I get how for the story they could be like, oh, his spider senses didn't go off during the fake healing because nobody was in danger. But if they were actually in danger and they're like using these people for something in this cult, then they were all in danger and his spider senses should have been going off.
That's pretty, well, I personally don't even like the idea of Spider-Man's spider sense, but that would mean that the spider sense can see the future, because if there's no immediate danger, how would the spider sense know something dangerous is happening? Or
what I'm saying is his sense didn't go off, so like he should know that it's fake.
But if somebody was using magic to heal somebody, then for real, his spider sense wouldn't go off because the magician is healing them, right?
He was like shoving his hand in his body, supposedly. I
guess so.
Well,
yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
It's just, it's a whole lot of like, we really need to like, Peter just needs to think about it for a second.
I think that's the thing, right? Is I think I would be able to like forgive that completely, because the story needs to go in a certain direction. So if he's like, oh my God, is this really happening? And he has to spend this issue like thinking about that or believing it, that is fine. Like, coincidence to get into a situation makes sense. But coincidence to get out of a situation is like just lazy writing. Right. You know what I mean? Yes. So it's like, so for him to just be like, you know what? I think I'll just ask a magician, I guess. And then he's like, okay, it's fake. Like, it's that whole plot point is useless. He might as well have just not been faked by it at all.
Well-
right? So like, yeah, that's my issue with it is not the spider sense or anything at the beginning. It's the way that they get out of it. Sorry, Mike.
Well, no, the thing is unfortunately, because it's a Marvel story, you have to remember that in this universe there is real magic. So we can't apply the same rules of logic to him that we would to a normal person. But the whole Dr. Druid thing was so useless. It was so poorly done. However, I do want to point out some interesting fact about Dr. Druid that I just found out. I knew that he was originally called Dr. Droom, but his name was changed, presumably so that people didn't confuse him with Dr. Doom. But did you guys know he's actually older than the Fantastic Four, and he first appeared in March 1961?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, created by Stanley and Jack Kirby. And he appeared in he appeared in Amazing Fantasy, which was Spider-Man's. Remember, he first appeared in Amazing Fantasy 15, but Dr. Droom appeared in the series when it was called Amazing Adventures. He appeared in number 1 to number 7, I think. And he was forgotten about for like 15 years, and then they brought him back. But the other thing that's weird about him is when he was introduced as a Caucasian, and then when he became a magician, he was actually transformed into an Asian. Isn't that crazy?
Is that crazy or racist?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he was also trained by the Ancient One.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
That might have been a retcon, but yeah.
Maybe, yeah. But yeah,
Anyway.
he was trained. That's how he learned his magic, was from the Ancient One.
Interesting.
And then he was like, I'm the best sorcerer out there. And then Doctor Strange is like, no.
Uh-huh.
No, man.
No.
Okay, so before we wrap up the review of this issue, Dave, I want to ask you about the artwork. What did you think of the art in this issue by Alex Saviuk?
Let me pull it up.
Okay. Don't you already have it up in front of you right now?
Well, no.
Okay. All right.
I did like the artwork. It had that, late 80s early style. Early style. What the hell am I saying? Early 90s style. It's not the 90s yet for these, but that's
88, yeah, 88.
it's close. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see an issue with the artwork. It reminded me of just the classic comic book style from that time period.
Right, I agree. Very classic. I also want to say one more thing about Dr. Druid. He was voted the 4th worst Avenger of all time by Newsarama magazine.
Hell yeah.
Anyway.
4th worst?
Yep.
Who was worse than him? I don't believe that he could be the 4th worst.
Who's the worst?
Would you like me to find out? Because I can click on the
Yes.
link. Okay,
Is
now
it-
that
This is
Star
what the
Fox?
podcast is about now.
It's got to be Star Fox, right?
crap. You know what, guys? It brings me to like a website that's just like the homepage, so I can't actually read the original article, unfortunately.
What was the
Newsarama. But if you want to investigate that while we're talking, feel free. Newsarama, top 10 worst Avengers of all time. Maybe you can find it.
Oh, Newsarama was changed to Goliath, possibly. What did you say? What was his? Oh no, it says 10.
All right, so
Yeah.
number 10.
Oh, you found
Justice.
it. Justice. Justice, originally called Vance Astro, and I called the fact that they changed his name to Justice silly, and Fabian Nazieza called me out on Facebook.
So,
One of the many times he called me out. Anyway, go ahead.
good
He likes
news.
to call you out.
Don't know who that
Pissing
is.
off
but
Fabian
okay.
Nice
Let's see
man.
who's worse.
It's
Dr.
our boy.
Dr.
It's our
Druid.
boy, Dr. Druid. He's the worst.
Yeah,
He's the
who's
worst?
No, but who else is
Yeah.
on the list? Just read the list quick.
Stingray's number 2.
Who's number 1?
Dr. Druid.
Dr. Druid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's the shittiest one. Okay.
Yeah.
Then Stingray. who I
3D
love.
Man is 3.
Yeah.
Love it. Gilgamesh, or the Forgotten One. U.S.
That's
Agent
mean.
is 5.
That's
6
fair.
is Jack of Hearts.
That's
also
also fair.
7 is Star Fox.
Thank you.
8 is Mantis.
Oh.
Oh,
9,
sorry,
Red
girl.
Hulk. 10,
fair.
Justice.
Man,
Just finding out Mantis is half German, half Vietnamese, though. Happy
yeah.
So they got
Asian Heritage Month, folks.
they got it right in the movie, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Is her actress Vietnamese?
The actress is half Asian. I know that. Sorry.
Okay, well that's.
So.
I don't know how to tell you this, but Asia's a big place.
Oh. Oh. Anyway.
Yeah, I think I'm technically half Asian.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
So
No, you're from the. What is it? How do you pronounce it? Levant? Levant? You know what I'm talking about?
Lebanon.
No.
No.
No, not Lebanon. No, the Levant, Levant is a name for all of like the Middle East, including Northern Africa. It's an ancient name for that whole area.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh,
Huh?
get cultured.
Oh, wait a
Sorry.
minute. Technically, Dave Constantino. You're Greek, right, Dave?
I am not
Oh, what are you?
I am not.
Italian?
Macedonian.
Macedonian, also part of the Levant.
Okay.
Actually, no, it's not.
Okay.
Anyway, we're way off course here. Our
Oh, yeah, some editing will be due.
We're
for
losing
this
fans
section.
left and right here, guys.
Joke's on you, no editing.
Yeah, there you go. Okay,
It all stays in, baby.
so Web of Spider-Man.
Cut this section out.
Another smash hit issue of Web of Spider-Man. I like this one.
Sure.
I recommend it. Dave Constantino, do you recommend this issue?
The one we were just talking about?
No, the one we're gonna talk about. Yes, the one
Yeah,
we were just talking about.
No, did we move on to the second one yet?
No.
Not
we
yet.
haven't
No,
moved on.
we're not done the episode yet.
Okay.
No.
Yes, the first one. Well, yeah. I guess I wouldn't tell anyone not to read it. You know, there's. It's
There's
all right.
that.
It's pretty good, but there's some parts that are kind of whatever. Yeah, I'd say read it. Read them all.
There you
That's what I'll
go.
say.
Love Dave on every episode. Okay, G.I. Jolie, do you recommend this one?
Yeah, like Dave, I wouldn't tell anyone not to read it.
Sweet. Joshua Merval, do you recommend this issue?
Honestly, not by itself. No, I think if you're interested and you read the first two and you liked it, then yeah, continue it to finish the story. But as an issue by itself, it's I don't know, whatever.
All right,
Yeah.
who's left? Oh yeah, Bex Luthor, do you recommend this one?
It's always me that's left.
Anybody left here in the call? No.
No,
Okay.
no, nobody?
All
Okay.
right. Moving
Parker,
on.
what did you think?
To be fair, a more important opinion than mine. I don't want to give a recommendation until we conclude this one, because if the conclusion sucks, then I can say don't read any of it. But if it's cool or at least enjoyable, then I could say yeah. So I'll hold off this week.
Okay. Okay.
Also, actually, can I say one real quick thing before we move on?
Sure.
Do you guys think that the priest is still involved in this cult?
Ooh.
Ooh,
Maybe.
that's
The only
be a
reason
good
I said that is
twist.
because he lives at his address is 666.
Oh, sick.
Ooh.
Maybe
So
he's
I'm
not a
like-
priest then.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm like, the priest lives at 666. I'm like, something's, but he hasn't done anything else though. I don't think to make him seem suspicious. But I'm just like, I don't know. That's a weird thing to
That
put in.
address.
And they put the address in twice in like both panels. You see the building. It's 666. So it's just strange. So.
All right, so we'll hold off on Bex's recommendation, and now we're gonna jump to the spectacular Spider-Man. Oh no, we're not. Amazing
Nope.
Spider-Man.
Quit skipping me!
Oh my gosh!
Oh my god!
All right, we're gonna do Amazing Spider-Man 304. Also, I want to point out a quick side note. I once, about 5, maybe 10 years ago, I sold all my Amazing Spider-Mans for a very dirt cheap price, and I regret it. And I went to a comic convention about 5 years ago with G.I. Jolie and Bex Luthor in Sarnia. Do you guys remember? I went around shopping for comics, and I actually bought this issue. A comic that I'd already bought and sold, and I reread it while we were sitting there because I was insane. I don't know if you guys remember that, but...
You
probably
being
don't-
insane? Yes. That exact
Yeah.
moment? No.
No, okay. So yeah, it was one of those things where I have such a compulsion to like collect that I bought a comic I'd already bought and sold. But anyway, that was this issue. And Bex Luthor is going to tell us what happens in this one.
Do you still have it, or did you sell it again?
No, I sold it again.
Yep. Okay.
Nice.
So I mean, he's going to buy it again.
Just checking.
Yeah.
There's an echo. Does anyone else hear that?
Yeah, I just heard that as well.
An echo.
Hello.
Seems to be gone now.
Okay. Cool.
Testing,
Sick.
testing. Okay.
Huh.
What a fun ghost. All right, so yeah, amazing. What is it? 304. Pretty lackluster cover, unfortunately, but you know what can you do? We start off the comic with J. Jonah Jameson showing off his graphic design is my passion cover of his collection of Spider-Man photos that Peter has taken over the years. Just the worst font choice, but whatever. And he shows it to Peter, and he's like, hey, get a load of this. And Peter's like, oh my god, how could you do this? How could you publish every picture I've ever taken my entire life into one little pamphlet? Without asking me, which is the first thing. And, of course, the lawyers jump in, and they're like, technically, when you sold these photos to the Bugle, they're his property now, so whatever. But we will, like, give you $100. And then he's, like, super mad about that. Like, $100, not enough money. And then they're like, well, if you go on a book tour, we're gonna give you royalties for the book when you promote the book. And he's like, oh, cool, I'll do that. That sounds great. And then they're like, also bring Spider-Man. And he gets very upset about this. And he's like, who do you think I am? Spider-Man? And, so Peter swings off, and he's a little perturbed because he was actually excited that Peter Parker, one of Peter Parker's talents, was getting acknowledged, and maybe he could do this without Spider-Man, even though, ironically, it is just a huge book of selfies. So he's just swinging around the city, and he comes across a couple goons who are in a knife fight over $5, and Peter disrupts them on his way home. He drops into his house or his apartment with Mary Jane, scares her, and tells her that, oh, hey, we're going on tour for this book that I didn't know I was making. We're going to California. You in? She's like, yep, sure I am. So they go tell Aunt May the good news, and she seems pretty excited. It's a very sweet moment. And then we switch over to Beverly Hills, where the Black Fox, everybody's favorite Silver Fox burglar, is the last time we saw Black Fox, he was telling Peter, he's like, this is my last heist, I'm retiring, that's it, and I'm done. Obviously a lie. He's still heisting things, but this time, this is the last one. So he's in a mansion that apparently the owner is on vacation, he's drinking their champagne, and he calls the police and is like, hey, I'm the guy who owns this house. Don't arrest anybody in there. And they believe him for some reason. I don't know. So Peter and Mary Jane are leaving their apartment, and then this very definitely not a creepy man shows up, and he's like, hey, this is my first name and last name, even though you didn't ask. Also, you dropped your keys. And they're like, well, yeah, maybe we'll get dinner when we get back. Have you met my husband? And Peter's like, hi, I'm her husband. And he's like, absolutely does not care. So, can't wait to see where this creepy guy goes next. And it's definitely not going to be good. So they take a plane, they go to California. The publicist is talking to Mary Jane and Peter about their schedule. And they do have a little bit of free time today before they have to start going and doing all their book tour things. So they go to Disneyland.
I would.
And Peter talks about how, like, oh, I was always trying to support, like, Uncle Ben and Aunt May. I never got to go, so, like, we gotta go. So they go to Disneyland, and it's very, very cute. And then their publicist had got them tickets to this, like, gala to help, you know, talk about the book signing. I don't know why anybody here, any of these really rich hoity-toity LA people would give a shit about a book about Spider-Man pictures, but they go. Mary Jane looks great, as always. Peter is there. Black Fox is also there because he wants to steal the, like, chalice that this event is for. Like, it's like a celebration of this cup before it goes back to its country of origin. Which I thought was nice, because that never happens. The artifacts never go back to where they're supposed to be. So Peter spots the Black Fox sneaking around, and he's like, oh shit, I know that guy. Better sneak off. So he leaves Mary Jane to talk to all the people, and he sneaks off to go change into his Spidey outfit, while Black Fox gasses some people and then steals the chalice. And then Spider-Man shows up, and Black Fox is like, oh shit, Spider-Man, why aren't you in New York? Don't worry about it. There's a little tussle, and Black Fox gets away, but Spider-Man bursts into the ballroom with all of the people, and he's like, oh crap, people can't know that Spider-Man's here, because Peter Parker's here. And Mary Jane, thank God she exists, is like, oh, everybody, welcome Spider-Man. He's here to help us promote the book tour with my husband, Peter Parker. And then he's like, ah, crud. All right, well, here I am, Spider-Man. And then, so Black Fox is currently getting away. He drops the chalice, and the freaking Prowler picks it up. So, that's rad. And we ended on that.
That's great.
Kind of short for amazing, I think. Usually it goes on a little bit longer than this.
So, first of all, we got the return of the Black Fox, which is cool. I think it's cool. I don't know. I mean, I thought this was... I mean, considering I've read this issue just recently, as you know, because I rebought it, I think it was a fairly good issue. Amazing is always kind of, I guess, typical, you could say. Not typical, but kind of generic. And this is a little bit more exciting than average. I like the plots that they've introduced. And obviously I've reread these many times, and I know where this is going. I know where the subplot's going to go. I won't spoil anything. But I thought this was a pretty good issue. Josh, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, it was pretty fun, straightforward. MJ is the best always in Amazing so far. She's like an actual duo with Peter. She's an actual character. She's like, it really feels like they have a real relationship and they talk to each other, and like, she's a character. It's so interesting. It's so cool to see a character from her. Like her jumping in and saving Peter by introducing Spider-Man to the gala instead of it being like, oh God, I wasn't supposed to be here. Like, it feels supernatural, and she like brings him in, and like, it's so great. They're kind of like fun banter and back and forth in the limo when Peter gets the idea to go to Disneyland. Like, there's so that's where this issue shines, I think. It's cool to see Black Fox, and I like the character, but like, he's not really doing anything exciting. The reveal of Prowler is cool, and it's like a fun subplot that like JJ stole all of Peter's pictures to make a book to make more money. But like, I think that this issue shines with their relationship and the two of them like hanging out. So yeah, that's my whole take on this one.
Yeah, it's like, there's a couple issues of Amazing that were a little bit rough, but I think this one bounces back. And I love the way that when Spider-Man just shows up at the gala, that she thinks quick and just incorporates it into what they're doing. I think that was awesome. It was a great moment. Yeah. And I love the reveal of Prowler at the end. I actually forgot he was in this issue, so that was really cool.
I think without her, it would have been a pretty average issue.
Yeah.
Of Spider-Man.
That's a good point. That's a good.
Yeah.
They're really playing off each other well in this. G.I. Julie, what'd you think of this one?
Excuse me. The contrast too between the Mary Jane that we just read and the Mary Jane in this comic is so stark. And I can't believe editors allowed that to happen at the time. Like,
and then the Spectacular from last month as well. Like, she's like, I don't really care about your problems.
Yeah, she's like 3 different people. She's like Moon Knight. I liked this issue better than better than Web. I actually really enjoyed this issue. I like when superheroes do things that are like weird for superheroes to do, like go on a book tour. It's super fun. And it's like, oh, and I guess my wife is coming too because I have one. And she's awesome. She just happens to like turn it out through the whole issue, which is rad. However, I'm not sure how I feel about the whole Black Fox thing yet. It's kind of it's the start of a caper, I think. If you know what I mean? It feels like they're starting something and they're not giving me enough yet to be super intrigued by why he's there.
Right.
Other than I know he's just there to steal shit. Why? I don't know. Do you know, Dave?
Dave Constantino, do you know why Black Fox is there?
He wants to steal shit.
There you go. Okay, Bex Luthor. No, just kidding. Dave, so I know, again, you're kind of coming in the middle, but this is kind of the beginning of a new story. So what'd you think of this one?
I'm in agreement that the drastic difference in Mary Jane's character is so much better in this issue. Like, she's an actual person, not like the other one where it was just like, here's something that's in this issue. But I just think this one is actually really well written. I liked it. I liked a lot. I just think it was I would recommend this one. I think it's a good issue. I did like the storyline about the book thing. I also thought it was funny. Also, a terrible name for the book as well. Bexy commented on the bad font. Yes, but he just called it Webs. Like, what the hell is that? He doesn't care. He just wants the money.
I think it's an okay name. I don't know.
It's an okay name. Yeah, I don't know what else they could have called it.
It was an excuse to draw the title of the book in
Webs. Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's probably what it was.
It would have been interesting if they called it like Web of Peter Parker or something to kind of like combine the two titles of the comics or something, because it is just like, even the font that they used is just the comic font, the old logo from Web, right? So
Actually, yeah.
Why don't they just call it Web of Peter Parker, A Tale of Lies? Anyways, no, I would recommend it. I thought it was good. I don't know.
All right. Bex Luthor, have you given your review yet?
No, I just recapped it.
Okay.
No, this one was
Bex
my
is
favorite
here?
too.
Yeah. No, so sorry. Go ahead, Bex. What'd you say?
I gotta go. You guys are lucky I have no other friends, because like I wouldn't take this bullying if I had anywhere else to go. But I don't. So no, this was my favorite issue, and it's specifically because of the non-Spider-Man related things, like going to Disneyland with your wife, your aunt mother figure being proud of you for publishing a book. And talking about how proud Uncle Ben would be. I like a good Uncle Ben reference when we're not talking about responsibility, when we're just talking about him being a dad. Mm-hmm. I think that's really sweet, and I mean, you guys already said it, but just the ridiculous contrast of Mary Jane, where she's actually like a character in this and not just Peter's wife, which I feel like sometimes, like, the reason like the editing gets away with this is because half the time Peter's out of character. Like, we've reviewed comics where we're like, why is Peter Parker being this way? Like, this is so out of character for him.
Right.
Because there's not really a consistency, and I feel like some of these writers really don't know what to do with Mary Jane, which I understand if you didn't want them to be married in the first place, probably, right? So you just have to shoehorn her in sometimes. Yeah,
it was kind of forced on all of them, so.
But I think this is the best way, even if this particular writer didn't necessarily want the marriage to happen. It happened, so now you have to deal with it. And having her be his partner because they're married, great. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. Makes the most sense. And Mary Jane is smart. She isn't just pretty. Like, that's I feel like a lot of times everyone's like, wow, look at how hot Mary Jane is. But she's actually, like, a lot more than that. She has a lot of street smarts that Peter doesn't necessarily have, because he's the bookend of that kind of spectrum.
Right.
So when she's just like on her feet, she's like, oh, here's Spider-Man. We're promoting Spider-Man book tour. It's great. And I also I like when Spider-Man's not in New York, but not for like a book tour. That's an actual reason. Mm-hmm. Not where they're like, there's a war in Europe. Get over there.
It's like there's war everywhere. We're not just sending Peter and Kate Cushing everywhere.
Yeah, at least this makes sense. And what makes the most sense is J. Jonah taking all of Peter's pictures and making more money off of them.
Yeah. As
much as possible. It's just everybody is very good in this book. Everyone is very on brand for the characters. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy that the lawyers just are there. They're like, actually, you don't know any of these. Mm-hmm. Very J. Jonah. It was just a fun read. I like Black Fox. I think he's a fun bad guy because he's like a harmless bad guy. Like he's stealing and he's being bad, but you're like, he's fun, and you don't want to hate him. And it's nice that that's the antagonist. It's not like the Doc Ock trying to just blow up New York,
right?
Because Spider-Man's there.
Stupid, right.
And he's just a dude too, which is super.
And he's
fun.
old. I look at the fact that he's old, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
Older. I will say that I do. I think the one thing that I have an issue with, other than like, not much, is that, and it's like kind of a tangent too, is why is it that everybody is always depicted as riding Splash Mountain whenever Disney is talked about? That's it. It's
I
all
guess it's just
anyone-
iconic.
Yeah, okay. It's like it's always like an establishing shot of Cinderella's castle, and then boom, Toad's Wild Ride.
What would you
Splash
rather
Mountain.
have? The teacups?
Dumbo.
But like it's 88 too, right? So it has to be
Yeah.
1988 Disneyland.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I guess Splash Mountain's got to be the one.
I've never been there, so I immediately knew that these were two things that are in Disneyland, right? Like, I mean, you actually all you need to do is show the Mickey Mouse balloons, and I know you're in Disneyland. But also, like, Donald's back there. That's fun.
Yeah. Like every sitcom in the 80s, I just remember like every sitcom in the 80s, they'd always have a special if they weren't going to Hawaii in the special, they were going to Disneyland, and they were always on Splash Mountain. And half of the family would always be standing on that bridge getting splashed by water. Like, step by step, the actual theme song, the visual, like, imagery of them is at Disneyland. So it's like, okay, fine. Maybe Disney was like, was it new in the 80s or something?
No, I think it's from the 50s, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been around for quite some time.
Yeah,
Was
that
there
goes
a
down.
resurgence
Maybe.
or something?
Maybe.
I was gonna say going to Disneyland is the Western sitcom TV equivalent of the beach episode in anime.
Yeah.
Okay.
Less
Josh,
fan servicey though.
Josh, have you given your review yet?
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
it's first.
So,
Mike's just not paying attention to anybody today.
Dave, we have
Yeah.
all talked about Todd McFarlane ad nauseum. Are you familiar with Todd McFarlane?
Yeah, he's a Spawn guy.
Yeah, there you go. So, what'd you think of the art in this issue?
Well, I do have it up. Let me just reference it.
Okay,
No?
sure.
Okay, because I got chastised earlier. Let me just take a quick. Oh yeah, okay. Hey, a little thing. Side note here. The random page I went to was when Aunt May's singing about dancing. On the shirt is a Felix the cat.
Oh yeah. Oh, remember
We found it.
See, every issue of every comic he does, Todd McFarlane fits in a reference to Felix the Cat. So you
Really?
found the reference this issue, yeah.
Oh, I wasn't intending on finding it, but hey, it's like Waldo, I guess. I found him. Okay, so what was the question?
Todd McFarlane's art. What'd you think
Oh
of it?
yeah, I love Todd McFarlane's art. I always have. Well, I think I always have. Anyways,
Well-
no, I think I didn't think the art was too drastically different from the previous one.
Really?
Like, maybe it-
Okay.
well,
Interesting.
no, it was actually different, but maybe it wasn't as generic. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. We should point out. I don't know
I
if
don't
you
know
guys,
too much about
we should point out this issue was penciled by Todd McFarlane, but it was inked by Joseph Rubinstein, who at the time, who at the time was kind of like the most prolific inker at Marvel, but also, in my opinion, the most generic. So I don't know if you guys noticed a difference in the art style, but he makes it,
Boring.
he makes it more generic Marvel. And Jolie,
Yeah,
go
it's
ahead.
It was
was
Jolie.
funny that
wondering why-
everyone's like, it was boring, it was shit. I was like, actually, it's really tight. Like, almost,
He-
and by tight, I mean, like, uptight.
He fixes some things, but he also makes it more like a typical Marvel comic, right? So
Yeah, I was
Josh,
going to
go
say things feel a little bit more toned down this issue, and that definitely makes sense. I think for better and for worse, I think it doesn't jump out as me as much, the art, but at times it feels more solid than it would in previous issues because he's obviously a more skilled inker and artist than Todd McFarlane, but it is nice that Todd is still doing the penciling because there's still some like really fun, dynamic, interesting things happening. It just doesn't feel like it stands out as much, and it does kind of fall into like more of a status quo. And honestly, I don't mind it that much. Like, I feel like it kind of grounds the art a little bit more while still having the storytelling. So I wouldn't mind if this becomes the status quo and this is kind of like where Amazing stays for a while. I'm not sure. I know Todd McFarlane stays on for a while, but I'm not sure if he's back to inking forever or...
I think he does, because this is the reason is because it goes bi-weekly next issue. So that's why I think he needed help, because he was falling behind in deadlines. So I think it's going to be back to McFarlane inks. But I do want to point out that the scene that you guys mentioned where they go on the Disney ride, there's actually a really creative jump cut where Peter and Mary Jane are sitting next to each other, and then they're sitting next to each other on the ride. That's very cool. But look at the face, Peter's face there. I think there's nuances to his expression that Joseph Rubinstein adds that McFarlane would not have added. And I think that's a strength of the inks in this issue. There's like subtlety to the shadows that gives his face more of a shape, more of a realistic shape that I think is really cool. But, go ahead.
I think too, less lines in the face. Like there's obviously still a lot of like Todd McFarlane seeping through the inks, but I feel like there would be way more lines on his face if it was, if he was doing the inking as well.
Well, also, I think it also shows that Todd McFarlane is one of those guys, just like George Perez, where if he inks himself, he's 10 out of 10. If anyone else inks him, it diminishes his impact, I think. So, I don't know. But I still think the art in this one's really good.
I just wanted to add, because, to be honest, I saw the last two issues, they were similar. But what I wanted to say was, in this one that we read, everything seemed a little cleaner. Like, I don't know if that's the right word, but like the other one seemed a little grittier in some areas.
Right. So that I feel like that might be because the other two issues are scans, while this one is a digital recoloring.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it could be the way they just uploaded it. But yeah, I didn't. I thought the art was good, but I didn't see a completely drastic difference. That's all.
All right.
Okay.
Michael is bullying me in the text chat.
We're having a side conversation. So anyway.
Being bullied.
Stop it.
Shouldn't bully other people. Didn't you learn anything from Spider-Man?
There you go. That's why I need to read more Spider-Man, right?
Well, actually, if you keep bullying them, then in the future you become their friend because they're actually a superhero. And then
And then I'll lose my legs in a war and then become Venom. Anyway.
Sounds dope.
So yeah, I thought this was a pretty good issue. I'm looking forward to what happens with the Prowler. So I definitely recommend this one. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, I recommend it.
G.I. Jolie?
Yep.
And Josh?
Yes.
And
That's everybody.
Bex Luthor. Do you recommend it?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Oh
God, I'm gonna keep my composure here. Now we're gonna jump on to the next one, which is Spectacular Spider-Man. Oops, I had it on the wrong one here. 142, featuring the final showdown with Tombstone. Again, Dave, I apologize. This is like part 4 or 5 of a story, but anyway. So
I have heard of Tombstone. I'm familiar with him a bit.
Yeah, he's in the He's in the TV. The cartoon. Not in the movies yet, but he is in the cartoons. So yeah, we start off with Peter as Spider-Man swinging around the city, flashing back to. Well, last issue there was a cliffhanger where Tombstone snuck into Mary Jane's apartment and was basically like, manhandling her. So we finally find out what happened. He touches base with Mary Jane. She's wearing like a what is that called on her wrist? Like a dressing.
Cast.
Sort of like a cast, not a cast, but whatever. Yeah.
Like a brace or something.
Kind of, yeah, on her wrist. And she basically explains what happened. That he was like literally strong arming her into giving up the location of the Robertson tape, which is, for you, Dave, I'll tell you quick. Joe Robertson recorded a confession explaining that he witnessed Tombstone murder someone, and then Peter Parker, he was going to give it to Peter Parker. Peter Parker has it, but then he was told not to share it with the public or with the police. So he's debating about what to do, and that's basically the dilemma of this storyline. And so then Tombstone is like, I want to meet Peter Parker in Atlanta. And he tells Peter Parker this over the phone. He's like, I want to meet you in Atlanta. And, we're going to settle this once and for all. But then instead of going as Peter Parker, he goes as Spider-Man. And while he's swinging there, we see, again, a continuation of last issue where the Punisher has been captured by the Arranger, who works for the Kingpin. And a new supervillain named the Persuader is trying to mind control Punisher into, becoming a bad guy, basically. So then we cut back over to Joe Robertson doing like physiotherapy in the hospital, and his son is trying to kind of like encourage him to, keep a positive attitude and all that stuff. And then while he's getting physiotherapy, Joe Robertson is hallucinating visions of Tombstone, who's like trying to intimidate him, blah, blah, blah. Then we cut over to a shocking subplot, which Gerry Conway likes to do. And all of a sudden we're introduced to a woman who looks suspiciously like Gwen Stacy, who died in Amazing Spider-Man 121, I think it was. So we don't know who this woman is, but it looks exactly like Gwen Stacy. And then to make things even wackier, a UFO with two guys dressed in like weird costumes flies above her and is shooting laser guns at her and talking about a character called the High Evolutionary. But this Gwen Stacy looking person manages to evade them and hide in a giant sewer pipe. And then we cut away and we go back to the main story, and we're back to Spider-Man on this building that's being constructed, and he confronts the Tombstone. And so him and Tombstone basically have this big fight. And then just as that's happening, we cut away and we find out that Joe Robertson's decided that he's changed his mind. Or he doesn't say that yet, but he's basically saying into a tape recorder with Kate Cushing and everyone else around him, Ben Urich and J. Jonah Jameson, he's admitting that the reason he didn't expose Tombstone is because he was afraid. Then we cut back to the fight scene, and Tombstone and Spider-Man are fighting on this building back and forth, and Tombstone is hitting him with his metal pipe and blah, blah, blah. And then we quickly cut back to Joe Robertson, who's explaining things on this tape recorder. Cut back to Spider-Man and Tombstone. Tombstone's hitting him with this metal pipe, hitting him, back and forth, back and forth. And then it looks like Spider-Man had the tape on him, but the tape falls out, and it's landed on top of this elevator, and Tombstone looks down, and he sees it, and he's going to try and grab it, but then just at that moment, Spider-Man swings around from underneath the floor, kicks him in the face, and then starts punching him. We get these great Sal Buscema close-ups of Tombstone's mouth getting all bent out of shape and everything. Spider-Man's punching him, wham, wham, and, dodging out of the way, and Tombstone hits like this metal beam. And then basically, Spider-Man says to him one question before we put this to bed: why didn't you kill Robbie Robertson when you had the chance? And he says, how could I kill him? Robbie's my friend. And then Spider-Man punches him, and we get this big Sal Buscema shot of Tombstone falling, and it looks like he's about to fall to his death. But then Spider-Man shoots his web out and catches him and doesn't let him die, right? Because he's a superhero. And then he lets him fall into this kind of like garbage truck or whatever it is. And then he goes down, he retrieves the tape, and then we cut back to the scene of the hospital. Joe Robertson gives full confession that he's basically an accessory to murder. He protected Tombstone for 20 years. He didn't reveal that he saw him murder someone else. And then he tells J. Jonah Jameson that he's going to resign as editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle, but JJJ won't let him. Then we cut back to the Arranger, who's like, oh, well, Tombstone, what a disappointment. What a waste. I thought he would do better than this, but oh, well, he's captured now. We see him getting arrested by the cops. Then we cut back to the Arranger sitting in his office, and then who walks in? But the Punisher, dressed in full uniform, and he's like, just point me where you want me to go. Just tell me who you want me to kill. So it looks like the Punisher has been successfully brainwashed by the Persuader, and now he's working for the Arranger and thus working for the Kingpin. And we're going to start off this review with Bex Luthor. Bex Luthor, you tell us. Yeah, you tell us what you thought of this issue.
I was paying attention. No, I actually like this one. And I didn't like any of the Tombstone up to this point, but I liked the conclusion, so it made me like the rest of it a little bit more. Actually, I don't care about the Persuader at all. I don't care about the Arranger at all. I totally forgot that the Gwen Stacy clone was this early, and everything that's gonna come after that. I don't even know if we're gonna get to half that on this podcast. So like that's like they set that up. Did they know what they were going to do?
No, just a quick note. The Gwen Stacy clone, I think, appeared in one issue way back in like 149.
Yeah, 142 to 149 with the original, what's his name, Warren Miles.
Okay.
And then supposedly everybody dies in that issue, like the Jackal, the clone of the Jackal, the Spider clone. Right. Supposedly everybody dies, but just kidding.
So then, but
nobody died.
Right, but just so you know, and I don't want to spoil it, but there's this huge gap between this storyline and the Spider clone of like of the mid 90s. So this is like a temporary little clone story.
Yeah, but this is like this Gwen Stacy clone. It's the same people, right? It's
as far
the
as
Jackal and everything.
As far as I know,
like,
yeah.
But I feel like
yeah.
It's all it's all the same shit. It's all a bunch of Clone Saga bullshit eventually. In 30 years, whatever. Besides that, I liked it. I hate that they put it in this early. And because they're not going to be like, next issue, who's this Gwen Stacy? Like, I think they don't talk about it until another annual, whenever that is. But I like how everyone's there for Robbie. I like that part. I like how Spider-Man is fighting Tombstone. He's like, hey, guess what? You're just a man, and I'm a Spider-Man. And he just beats the shit out of him. And Tombstone is like, who is this guy? Because he's like the coolest mob boss hitman. But then all of a sudden, the guy with the proportionate strength and speed of a spider starts punching you in the face, and you realize that you're not hot shit at all. I love that. I love that takedown. Yeah, it was good. Actually, like, besides the Gwen Stacy weird subplot interjection and the Persuader bullshit, pretty straightforward. I'm not really looking forward to the Punisher being brainwashed, though, I gotta say.
Not at all.
It looks hokey. It looks very hokey, yeah.
Yeah.
God, when does the Persuader die? It's soon, right? I hope it's soon.
It's pretty lame.
Oh, good, he dies. I have something to look forward to. Yes.
I don't remember if he dies or if they just never write him again.
Right.
Because it could be one or the other.
He teams up with the Spot later on.
Don't you talk about the Spot like that?
No, I'm saying they write him out completely.
Oh.
And then he comes back later, right?
Josh, go ahead. Yeah.
This was I really liked this issue. It was pretty solid. Maybe you guys can fill me in. I think I might have missed something, but the tape that Tombstone and Spider-Man are fighting over, that is Robbie's confession about Tombstone, correct?
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the reason why Spider-Man is trying to get it back is because he wants to destroy it?
No, Spider-Man has it. And I think the idea is that he was going to give it to Tombstone.
No.
No, he was gonna expose it or something.
He was gonna take it. And
he wants to destroy it, right? Because it incriminates Tombstone.
Yes, but at the beginning of the story, Spider-Man does have the tape.
Right.
But why does he bring it with him?
That's a good question.
I think it's to do with the Rob guy. I forget.
Oh, it's because Tombstone says on the phone, I want to meet Peter Parker, you, me, and the Robertson tape. So
yes,
that's why Peter meets him.
I think And okay, so that's fine. I just want to be clear that that's what's going on in the story. I think that them fighting over the Robertson tape has absolutely no weight to it, and there's no suspense, because as it's going on, Robbie is creating a new tape.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I
True.
mean? I think it would have been pretty interesting if right at the beginning, Tombstone bests Spider-Man, he crumbles the tape in his hand, and then we have to see Spider-Man rise back up and defeat Tombstone while we're cutting back and forth of Robbie confessing again and making a new tape and turning a new leaf. But like, there's no like weight in that fight of like, oh, is Tombstone going to get the tape? Is he not going to get the tape? What's going to happen? Because it doesn't matter. Robbie's already went to the police. So Tombstone's whole like goal is moot at this point, because it's, he can make 1,000 tapes now. So it meant a lot more when we weren't sure if Robbie was ever going to come clean, and that was Spidey's only chance to incriminate Tombstone, right? So that is like my only complaint, and I feel like it could have just been done if things were just like shuffled around page wise or like panel wise.
Sure.
But all in all, I thought it was a pretty solid issue, and then the other thing was the needless hook that's for a different story completely in the middle of the freaking issue. I hate when this happens. If the Gwen Stacy thing was the last thing to happen, I don't care. It would be totally fine.
Right.
But we have to stop the action to be like, oh, by the way, something's going on with a clone of Gwen Stacy, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, back to our regular scheduled, program. It's so weird and jarring to keep doing that.
Right.
But
especially since it happened when it happened. Like,
yeah,
Robbie's having this really, like, crazy, like, not crazy, but he's having a moment where he's seeing a vision of Tombstone, while his son is trying to help him walk again. So it kind of is, like, inappropriate to kind of shoehorn in where they did.
Right, and he's like, it's almost like a ghost of Tombstone mocking him, and then we cut over to a person who's been dead for years. So it's such a strange plot point, and to put it in the middle of the story and have it to do with nothing else, it's super annoying.
Agreed.
But they could even have it like after they have the end and have like almost like a backup issue, right? A backup story where it's like something else completely happening that can slowly build up to something later on in the comic. You know what I mean? It just feels
almost, or more like a post credits, like maybe have the letters page, but then have one more page or something like that.
Yeah.
Dave, have you given your review yet?
No.
Okay, what'd you think of this one?
Do you want me to? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
I thought this issue was good as well. The tape thing was, I kind of am in agreement there with Josh, because like he's doing all this stuff and then at the same time he's just like, I'll just fucking confess right now. But I don't know. And who knows? Maybe Spider-Man has another copy back home. But whatever. I did think it was a good issue, and I do think that Tombstone kind of looks like Willem Dafoe. A little bit.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Obviously, he's not exactly the same, but it reminds me of him a little bit in some movies. But I thought it was interesting. And then there's that weird part with the Gwen Stacy thing, which I was like, oh, okay, I remember that kind of. But all right, where's the rest of the story? But it was pretty good. I would say, read it, recommend it.
Okay, now I gotta ask you, what did you think about the art in this issue?
Oh, you're gonna ask me every time?
Yes, of course.
That's
Why are
the
you gonna
format, Dave.
Why do you do that? Okay. The art was good. I don't know who drew this one. I guess I could look, unless you know.
Buscema.
Okay. I want to point to page 5, when Peter Parker is yelling on the phone with Tombstone, and there's a homeless person. And then there's that cat. I just want to point out the cat in that one shot.
Yeah.
When she's frightened, the cat's like, gotta get that hand food or whatever she's dropping. That's it. I wanted to point out that cat. It's the little details, you know. I thought the art was good in this, and even if you look in the third panel, you see Tombstone in the background as this is all going down, which is pretty cool.
Good point.
Yeah, there's a lot of detail in the art, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think once again, Sal Buscema has outdone himself. I think this issue is great for the art. You know, again, we should point out Sal Buscema has been a Marvel artist since the 60s. Alex Saviuk started in DC in the 70s, and Todd McFarlane started in the 80s. So, in a way, we have 3 generations of artists here, right? Like, completely different styles. But, again, when I was a kid, I didn't really like Sal Buscema that much, but now I love his art, looking back on it.
I have one more question.
Sure.
How long has Robbie Robertson been a character in Spider-Man? Like, did he go back to the 60s or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
60s, yeah.
Just because I'm not sure if anyone recognizes the similarity between his name and the guitarist in the band, which is exactly the same. But I think it was just a coincidence.
That's a good point. Well, technically, his name is Joe Robbie Robertson, and Robbie Robertson's name is Robbie Robertson. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
But-
that's a good point.
Maybe he was Joe Robertson, and then they gave him the nickname afterwards of
I
Robbie
don't know.
Robertson.
What year was this issue?
This is 88,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that would have been way after like the band got famous and all that stuff. But
but he was
It's
introduced, in the 60s, obviously.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was more of like a background character at the start, and then he's kind of like slowly become a more like regular character. And then I think this is the first time I remember him in all of the stuff that we've read be like a main character. He's
It's
always
very
just kind of been like,
storyline.
yeah.
And I think we might have touched on this, but Gerry Conway said that when he was trying to think of a character to tie Tombstone in with, because he was doing Spectacular and not Amazing, he had to find a character that wasn't, like, it couldn't be Mary Jane, it couldn't be J. Jonah, it couldn't be Flash Thompson. So that's why he kind of went down the rung of supporting characters and ended up on Joe Robertson, because he hadn't really been in the spotlight much, like you said, you know, so. But anyway, okay, so I guess, Dave, what is your favorite issue of this batch that you've read?
I would say 2, 3, 1. So Amazing Spider-Man followed by Spectacular and then
Web.
the Web. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, so I recommend this one. Do you recommend this one, Dave?
Yeah.
Awesome. Josh, do you recommend it?
Yeah, definitely. This is a really fun arc altogether. I would recommend all of them.
All right. Bex Luthor?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I did enjoy it more than I thought I was going to. So that's always great. I like liking stuff.
Cool. And there's more subplots to come with
Great.
Gwen
Never
Stacy.
mind, I take it back.
Okay. And G.I. Jolie, do you recommend this one?
I don't want to bring the average down, so yes.
Okay.
Go for it.
You're allowed to
Yeah,
not.
let's hear it.
That was my whole college career. Do it.
Destroying the bell curve.
Get fucked.
I'm invested. This is the last of the Tombstone things so far. So yeah, if you have been reading Tombstone's little like smatterings here and there, then yeah, sure, go ahead and read it. It doesn't really make sense without the other 3.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess that wraps up another episode. We want to thank Dave Constantino for joining us for the 3rd time. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks for inviting me again.
Hope you had fun.
I had a spectacular time.
Oh,
I get it. I want everyone to be sure to join us for the next episode of Here Comes the Spider-Cast, because we're going to be reviewing 3 episodes of the cartoon again. And the episodes we're reviewing, coincidentally, the first one's going to feature Tombstone.
What?
Yeah, episode 3-9, season 3, episode 9, Tombstone. The second one's going to feature Venom, and the third one's going to feature Carnage. So be sure to join us next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we want to thank G.I. Jolie and Bex Luthor for joining us as well.
Woo!
Woo!
Thank you.
And
Welcome.
yeah. And Josh, you can take it from here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast too. It really helps when you leave us a review over on Apple Podcast, or you can contact us through Twitter or Facebook at the Comic Book Syndicate. Please let us know what you guys think about the comics and the podcast. We want to keep that comics conversation going.
That's right, not on Twitter. But yeah, until next week, see you later.